Talent Seminar, and she shared as an extra speaker, and looking forward to what you have to tell us today. Give me a hug.
Oh, thank you. Okay, sure. Sure. Great. My name is Teresa, and I'm an addict.
Hi, Tracy.
And I thank God for being here, in God's country. When we drove in here from Detroit, and I began to see all the trees, and there was a sign, and I said, wow, this is God's country. I'm in the city, and, in the hustle and bustle, and sometimes we forget, that this is God's world. A song came to my mind this morning, and it's that there aren't many things in life that we can depend on, except rain falls from the clouds, the sun lights up the sky, and hummingbirds do fly. And this morning when I woke up, when I took a breath, I said, how did I do that? You know what I mean? How do I do that? I did not stay up all night, monitoring my breathing to make sure that I was breathing, or that my heart was beating, or that enough oxygen was getting to my brain. None of those things are anything that I control. My higher power does that for me. I am so, and we are so designed that everything's in harmony, with our bodies and how they work. And that's God's unconditional love. And I thank the giver this morning, for the gift of life today. Well, when I got up this morning, I opened my eyes. I didn't try to see. I was just able to see, And when I put my house shoes on, I didn't put them on. I thought it. I created it by a thought, and we are creators. I just got up, and I walked. I didn't think about how I was going to walk. I just did it. I thought it, and I did it. And that is a great gift, and sometimes we take those things for granted, in our lives. And if you try to explain those things to an individual, anyone, all those functions that I just mentioned, it would absolutely boggle, the mind of a neuroscientist, to talk about how you took a step, or how you saw, or how you, got something, or you moved from one thought to another to get things done. And God is truly the head of my life today, and I thank Him for that. There might be something that I might say. I am speaking about God today and my understanding of Him. And I may say something some people may consider as religious. And I want you to know that it's not to offend anyone. Whoever your God is, whatever name is on your door, that's for you. I'd like for you to just be open-minded, to receive it as just a symbolism, and you put whatever name you want on that door. I'm doing this course, and it tells me that every relationship that I have with people is designed by the Holy Spirit, and that everybody is either my crucifier or my Savior. And in knowing that, it lets me know that I am supposed to get to, that I have a lesson here, I have a purpose here, to get to love, because God is love to me. And to get to love and to see the highest of every individual, and see the highest in myself as well. I wake up in the mornings and I meditate, and I pray, and I ask God to direct my path. I ask God to help me to be more loving, and for the things that I don't see positively, I want to see that differently. I have a 6-year-old son, and one morning I woke up, and I was just so plugged in to my own insanity. We had went to Grand Rapids, and I had left some clothes there. I left a jogging suit there, and I had to call and have someone to send some money, to have someone to send it to me. And so a few days passed, and he told me, I said, go get your jacket. He said, I left it in Grand Rapids. I said, you left it in Grand Rapids? And immediately, in my spirit, I'm like, how could I? You know what I mean? And I apologized to him. I said, Mylon, I attacked you about that, but I left an outfit and I had to pay to have it sent here, and, we all, lose things, and I had no right to, to attack you about that when I did that myself. And for some of us, we know that as we continue to live, that we get an opportunity to play both sides of every story we hear. When someone tells me about some woman is going out with someone's husband, I say to myself, at one time that was all right for me too, but today it's not, and I know that they're going to come around to that understanding. So what I'm saying is that I get an opportunity to heal myself and say, Teresa, when you did that, you didn't know any better. So when we hear stories of what someone is saying, what someone else did, someone mentioned about gossip in their talk the other day, like last night. And when we hear someone saying something, we need to empower ourselves by taking that opportunity to forgive ourselves for that side of the story that we played, because it ain't nothing that we hear around here that's new to us, that we haven't both played both sides. If we're not doing it today, still it's an opportunity to say, oh wow, I forgive me for that when I did that. I forgive me for going out with someone's husband. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to do that today. And it gives me an opportunity to heal areas in my life that I may not have been aware of. I try and listen to everything that everyone says and see it as a blessing to myself, or me to being a blessing to them. And it's a win-win situation. That's where I'm at today with my relationship with God. It's important to me that even in telling my story, even when things are difficult going on in my life, my car broke. And I needed it to get to work and what have you. And it's amazing how my story is so empowering that no one ever feels sorry for me. I tell my story with such power and such, energy, and just knowing, that God is going to take care of everything and that I'm right where I'm supposed to be, that people say, oh, wow, Teresa, you're just extraordinary, and they say these wonderful things about me. So in telling our stories, I don't care where we are, we have to give our higher power, you know what I'm saying? Hey, he's breathing for us. He's waking us up in the morning, and in any given situation, there ain't nothing he can't do. There's nothing he can't do. And so when we tell our story, tell it so that it empowers us, so that it gives our higher power the glory, so that we can be the light, because we are the light of the world. And I want someone to know that there is a God in my life, and I want to represent that in everything that I say and everything that I do. And there was this cartoon, it was Dudley Do-Right and Nell. I never could stand Nell. I just couldn't stand her. She was always, Dudley, save me. God, she made me sick. And even today, and I think that that's what empowers me. And I was glad to know that there was a God and not a man that I had to, depend on. And in my relationships with people, I do my best not to put expectations or responsibility on an individual to do something for me. I don't care how intimate I am with that person. And the reason for that is because I know that I came here by myself and I'm going to leave here by myself. You strengthen me, you give me courage, you bring me back to the light. You know what I'm saying? On my lower self, you know what I mean? You'll tell me something positive to bring me back to center, to let me know that it's all right. So whoever God chooses to work through in my life, in any given situation, that's who I want God to use. I don't want to designate a person. If I'm short on my money for a bill, I don't want to say, well, you know what, I know my mother can send that to me. I know my sister's got it. I'm going to go call her. That's just tying God's hands for me. That's just for me. I choose to say, God, I know you're going to take care of this. You know that it has to be done. I'm down here just pretending I'm in control. You know what I mean? And I like to give that to you for you to handle that. And someone always comes. Something always happens. A door always opens up. I needed a computer, a calculator. It was really expensive for my job, and they had given me a deadline to get it. And so I went to bed that night, and I said, okay, God. I said, whatever it is, whether I get it or don't get it, we look in the mailbox. We're expecting for it to come through the mail, right? And so the mail had already run. And I said, I gave that to the Holy Spirit. It wasn't anything in the mail. And I went on to bed that night, and I got my coat on to go to take my son to school, and the phone rang. And a friend of mine, I had done some work for her. I had forgotten all about it. She says, hey, Teresa, I got $600 for you. She says, why don't you just come over here and get it? And I just thank God for that. And even had I not actually gotten the money, it was still going to be all right. And I left there, and I woke up that day going out that door knowing that it was still going to be all right. I have some miraculous things that have occurred in my recovery. I have a daughter that I hadn't seen in 15 years. She had been with her father. I took my son to... I contacted them when I first got into recovery, and they weren't so happy. My ex-husband, we had a real, bitter breakup, and he was still resentful. And my daughter had seizures. And so she was always with him, and he didn't feel the need to allow me to communicate with her. And so I took my son to Disneyland last year, and me and my sister, we were in L.A., and we had a great time. We had a great trip. When I got back to Fresno, her husband's nieces came over, and they began to talk to me and, welcoming me there, and told me about this girl named Tiffany that comes over to their mom's house, and that she has seizures. And I knew that was my daughter. And I had my sister to call over the next morning, and just so happened she was there. And she says, well, asked her who her mother and father was. Well, I really already knew. In my spirit, how your spirit, you just know stuff. You know what I mean? And I really rely on that. When I don't know the words, because sometimes words are so inadequate. But, my spirit just speaks and just lets me know, and that's just enough for me. And so I got an opportunity to be reunited with my daughter, and she came back here to Detroit with me, and that was the missing piece, of my family members that I had not been restored to, and it gave me an opportunity to, release my ex-husband, because I had held on to him for such a long time, and because I hadn't let go of him and he hadn't let go of me, every man that after him was linked to him like a chain, and every time I was in a relationship, it was this whole chain gang, around this individual, and in that forgiveness and in that release, of allowing each other to go on, after all of these years I hadn't seen him, I was still holding on to him like a ball and chain, the resentment and the anger, and I was hurting Teresa. I was hurting myself. And that release was just so great. And I knew, I felt it, and it was just so divine. A lot of times I find that my past has hindered me in staying in this present moment. And today, over the time I've been in the fellowship, I have actually been able to rid myself of my past. When I'm sitting there talking to one individual, I'm really there listening to that person, and I'm really there and no one else is standing around them. And that's what this program has done for me. My first relationship with a guy was one of fire and brimstone. Damn if you do and damn if you don't. There's nothing that you could do that was enough. And what happened was I in turn to flog myself. I was just, and if we saw somebody doing this to themselves, we say they're crazy. Just beating myself, just doing things, to hurt me. But that's what I was learned. I was taught to do that. You do one thing, you fall short, start beating up on you. I love me today, and I know that every place that I am supposed to be. I read different spiritual information, and it's so great to know that there is no condemnation. There is no punishment for anything that I do. And one of the greatest gifts I have that God has given me is to choose again. There was a word called sin that used to just, God, I could just see myself just burning, eternally. And so I heard someone explain it to me in a very acceptable and a very healing way, and it bridged my gap with that God of fire and brimstone. And it was that sin is just simply an archery term. That means you missed the mark.
Mm.
You know, isn't that so sweet? That was really sweet for me, you know, to know that. And one of the greatest gifts God has given us is that we can choose again. When we realize in our spirit that we have not been the best we could be with a person, as soon as we recognize that, you know what I mean, healing occurs. It's like cutting yourself. You know what I mean? When you cut yourself, when you get cut, and you can stand there and you can watch the blood, and immediately there's something within us that begins to send healing to that, where the blood will clot, you know what I mean, to stop the bleeding, you know, and it begins to heal. And that's what happens when we recognize that we have not been our best self to someone. You know what I mean? We cut ourselves, you know, we were cut. And once we realize that we've cut ourselves and cut another person, we go back and we apologize to them. At that moment, that healing, you know, begins right away. Right away. You know, something within us sends that healing, you know, clots that blood. You know what I'm saying? And that's what God does for me in my life. I'm really glad to be here. I haven't been making a lot of meetings. I've been in the fellowship for, and this is important that I say this, I been in this fellowship, and there were some circumstances that occurred early on in my recovery that it was painful for me to go to meetings, because I had gotten into a relationship with a person that was always other women around, and it was always real painful for me. And I only had 8 months clean at the time.
Mm.
I have 6 months now, and 6 years, and I'll have 7 years in July. And it kept me from making meetings, you know. And I always wanted to get back to the meetings, and I had allowed that to keep me away from going to meetings, because I didn't want to see different things and what have you. And I had asked, you know, God, how to get back to meetings, and individuals would just come to me and begin to say, you know, Teresa, you have a lot to offer. You have a lot to give. You need to give back, you know, to the fellowship. You need to be there. And I'm like, well, I'm there. You know, I'm there on my job. I'm there when I talk to people, you know, outside of the fellowship. And I came here today at this retreat, and I've been making a lot more meetings, and I'm really glad, and I'm really healing through that, and I know that I really do have something to offer. I had actually convinced myself that I didn't need to make meetings because of the pain, because of the fear, you know, and I just needed someone to take me by the hand, you know, and just guide me, you know, right back to the fellowship. And I'm here today, and I never left in heart, you know, and I'm just really glad to be here today, and I'm really very happy for this opportunity to be among us, you know, on such a sacred ground, and for such a sacred purpose, you know, of lifting ourselves higher to a higher consciousness, to be more loving, to be more forgiving. And I'd just like to thank you for letting me share.
Oh, no, keep it. Thank
You did good. You did just perfect. Bob, I'm at it. Thank you very much, Teresa. That was just excellent, excellent. Our next speaker, I got a chance to meet Friday night during the marathon session. She got real honest. I was feeling real big and hot about myself, and by her getting honest, it made me get honest. And I want to thank Maria for that for Friday night, and I'm looking forward to hearing her speak on relationship to higher power. So here's Maria.
Good morning, everybody. I'm an addict named Maria.
Hi, Maria.
I'm nervous, but that too shall pass. I want to thank God for another day clean and the opportunity to make it back to Camp Mac. It was kind of touch and go for a minute. I'm not going to say I didn't want to come, because I wanted to come, but I didn't put a whole lot of effort into trying to get here. But the one thing I did do was share at a meeting that I wasn't going to be able to make it because the people that I usually ride with weren't coming, and I don't like to drive. And I shared that at a meeting, and when I got home a couple hours later, another addict called me and said, I heard you were talking about going to Indiana, and you're not going, and you can go with us. Thank you, Claudia and John. And for a long time, I've kind of like been feeling like on my own in this fellowship. But that phone call gave me the real meaning of never alone. Because, let me tell you, my higher power, I have this real awesome higher power who I choose to call Jehovah. And the reason I choose to call him Jehovah because I was raised in a Jehovah's Witness family, my mother, and I've been calling him Jehovah all my life, and my thing is, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And that's my understanding of my God, is that I have to call a specific name. Because they got some rappers out here now that call themselves God. So I just simply have to be careful to who I pray to and call the name. And but my higher power is just, it's so awesome. I don't try to be real formal with it anymore. You know, there was a time at first it was like, oh God, da-da-da-da-da, you know, almost like having to put on a tuxedo to talk. You know, until I kept coming long enough, and y'all told me, well, just talk to him like you do one of us. And that's what I do, especially after getting a little bit more understanding, knowing that he knows me anyway. So there's no use in trying to manipulate and talk to him and try to be somebody that I'm not. You know, and I do know that he does have all the power. I was sharing with somebody last night, after a 30-something year of active addiction, I tried everything. For the last 10 years, I tried to stop. You know, it wasn't fun. The fun had been wore out. I was a heroin addict. The fun had wore out a long time ago. That was the first time I got bold. You know, and the last 10 years, I wanted to stop, and I couldn't. And I went through the mental hospitals to being prayed over. I just said I got a mom, 40-something years, Jehovah's Witness, so you know she did some praying. And I know that's part of the reason I'm up in here. You know, because I was one of them addicts that people used to ask, what is wrong with you? I seen you coming through the alley this morning. 5 o'clock, you are crazy. And I used to say, oh no, I'm fine, I'm walking with my man. I'm one of God's favorite people. And I used to just blurt that out my mouth, really not thinking about what I was saying. But after coming around here, I realized that it was a whole lot of truth in that, because there wasn't nobody else out there. You know, and it's only through the grace of God that I made it to Narcotics Anonymous, because I really thought I was going to die using dope. And it was a goal that when I do go, I just hope I be full of enough dope where I don't feel whatever happened. However it's going to take me out, just don't let me feel it. And in 1996, I went to a treatment center. And the therapist that they gave me did something real simple. First of all, the honesty was the antidote. That's what the cliche that really caught me. I said, damn, all I have to do is start telling the truth. And for a habitual liar, that sounded like a challenge. You know, and that's all I kept hearing. Just keep coming back. Honesty is the antidote. And this therapist told me, close your eyes and picture your own funeral. And every time I got ready to open my eyes, she said, don't open them, the funeral's not over. And I wanted to tell her, but I keep seeing the same thing. I keep seeing my daughter running around saying, well, what is AIDS? What is OD? And she was asking all these people that she was hearing whispering these things, that how I died. And at that moment, when the 15 minutes was up, I said, I don't want to die of AIDS. I don't want to OD. I don't even want to die anymore. You know, the book talk about us being slowly committing suicide. At that moment, I realized I didn't want to die anymore. You know, and this program has offered me so much. I was sitting here listening to her, and I'm sitting here saying, damn, I wish I was that intelligent. And then she wasn't cussing and just ladylike, and I'm sitting here still that quick, want to be somebody I'm not again. And the subject is on my higher power, my understanding. My higher power understands that I cuss. I thank God that, and I thank Him that I don't have a punishing God. My God is loving, caring, and forgiving. And a lot of times I think had my mom hadn't pounded that in my head when I was younger, I might not have did as much as I did. I'm like, oh, He's not going to get me for real? You know, I can do this again. You know, but He got me here when it was time for me to be here. And my higher power understands that. You know, I was talking to somebody, I have these sponsors that always say, they got a habit of telling people, my sponsor walks to a different drum or something. I said, what the hell that means? You know what I'm saying? Because as a result, I had a bunch of siblings, 7, 8 of them in my family, but I've always been a loner. When I first came out here, that's the first thing came to my mind. I can go hide in the woods and nobody can find me. I get a chance to be alone again, how I like it. And that's what I did my first year. I stayed near the water. I interacted with some of you guys, and I just look forward to coming because I don't go to church. I'm going to be honest. This is where I come and fill up with spirituality to go back to Detroit and put the mask back on. Because I'm not going to say that I'd have stripped all the masks. Sometimes I have to put them on. Especially when you live in a city like I live in, where if I do march to a different drum, see, I'm not wearing alligators and waves and all that shit to fit in. Because it's just not me. You know, and my higher power says, Maria, all you have to do is do what I ask you to do. And most of the time that is simply, don't forget who the boss is, who's really running the show. You know, I got your back. No, you can't handle this. Because I got that habit of saying, okay, God, you do this part. I can do this. I'm an expert in this part. And if it don't work, then I'll get back to you. Always trying to figure out something before I surrender it. And most times, you know what happens. I end up making a bigger mess. Now I got to surrender not that, but something else I done did in the process of trying to fix that. You know? Because this disease mind of mine. Somebody asked me last night, you so tired, you went to bed, you just fell out. I said, no, when I lay down, the committee starts. You know, what do you mean you're tired? Get up and go through the woods. Knowing you're scared. Claudia was telling me yesterday, be careful what you pray for, you just might get it. See, every year, I'm going to be honest with y'all, every year I come out here, I say, I'm going to find me somebody out here that I won't see again in Detroit, and I'm going to do this validation thing. And when I get home, my woman ain't going to know. My daughter's not going to know. I'm going to know. And God's going to know. And if I look back, play the tape back, I've always been sneaky. It don't be about getting caught. It be about the spiritual warfare after that. The conscience inside saying, now what did you really gain? You know, because you know who you are for real. You can go out there and try to fool them people if you want to. You don't act like, yeah, girl, let's go in the woods. We can get it on. Then when you come back next year, scared to face them. You know, because I still suffer from this low self-esteem. And a lot of days I would really think that another person can fix that. All they got to do is tell me I'm cute. And, yeah, I'll go in the woods with you. You know, and knowing in those woods, like you were saying, when I come here, it's the water. To me, this is just everything that God created just for me to enjoy, suck up, and go with. A lot of times when I be out here, I be like, I don't know what I'm feeling. And to be real honest, it don't be nothing but peace and serenity. But I'm so used to the other shit. You know, it takes me 2 days to recognize what's happening out here. You know, I'd be like, are you depressed? Dang, I miss my daughter. I want to go home. I wonder how they're doing at work, da-da-da. You know, and it don't be about none of that. It just be about you peaceful, fool, ride with it. You know, because I'd already told you about the committee that want me to go in the woods. You know, and knowing that's not even me, for real. You know, I really put a lot I have a lot of pride in being one of those people that can go in a room full of people knowing how much of a bullshitter I am, that my name hasn't been passed around in that room. See, it's not about me trusting y'all, it's about me trusting myself. And I have to ask God, just give me the strength, because I'm still that bad little girl inside. See, through this process, I have changed. And a lot of days I feel like I'm missing something. You've been good a long time, you know what I'm saying? You haven't had to surrender anything bad you've done lately. Just go fuck up somebody else's life. You know, and that's what it be about, really. Want to drag somebody else into my madness. And if I really sit down and journal like I'm supposed to every day, do the things, follow suggestions, make meetings on a regular basis, to be real honest, there's not a lot of chaos in my life. I have a peaceful home. I recognize that when I open my front door and I walk in my house, gay relationship or not being the best of a mother I can be possibly or not, I know that God is in my house. I live in a drug-infested neighborhood with the people I used with, grown up with, and it does not bother me because God has my house surrounded. The reason I moved in this house is because I was informed that my father was dying 2 years ago. I've never had the opportunity to tell my dad that I loved him simply because of the way he treated me coming up. I felt he didn't love me. I could not understand some of the things that he did. And a lot of it had to do with him not being able to accept me for who I was, and I knew that. I was an embarrassment to the family. Besides being gay, I was a dope fiend. So I have embarrassed this family on the block that thought they were a little better than everybody else. You know, I was supposed to be the closet kid, but they couldn't keep me in. But when this man got sick, and they called the whole family to the hospital and said, your dad has 6 months to live. Immediately, everybody in my family turned and looked at me. You know, they waiting for me to jump, holler, hoop, and act a fool. And I stood there and I said, thank God, I know today who has the power. The doctor said, Maria, did you hear what I said? I said, my mom said, oh, she's in denial. I said, no, I'm not. He's just the doctor. I know who I got faith in. Here, some 2.5 years later, my father is doing better than he was when he went in there. The disease said, he's going to die. You can do one more, and that way you can handle it for real. I think back now, I said, you know what he would have said? I told y'all she wasn't through. I told you she wasn't nothing but a dope fiend. Through the grace of God and you people. See, he didn't have to die for the disease to raise his head up. And I hear y'all say that we can lose a family member, we can do this, we can do that, but we don't have to use no matter what. I got this disease that say you got a new car, celebrate. It don't have to be nothing drastic. I just told you about it to tell me that you've been good too long. I also got a real manipulating, cunning, baffling disease that say they say don't pick up the first one, do a half a blow. Do some of that little pink cute shit you ain't never drank. Arbor Mist, they jumping in the sky for it. And God says, just hold on, I got you faded. Just hold on. And that's what I do. I just hold on. Because I know God got me faded. I start my day by asking him, please guide me, because if I don't, I'm in trouble 10 minutes later. My job is 15 minutes away. I want to leave 5 minutes before it's time for me to be there. God is no longer in control. And praying all the way. God, but you know I got to get to work, but please don't let the police stop me. And it's wonderful to have a godly understanding. See, my God even knows that I'll try to manipulate and bullshit him. And he just laughs at all of us, and she's still a fool. You know, and a lot of days I just have to clam up and depend on him to cradle me up in his arms. To me, it's not no real big intellectual thing to have a relationship with my higher power. Because I know who got me here. I know who's keeping me here. Because I got a disease that don't want me to stay here. I still got this disease that tell me I don't fit. You never belong nowhere else. Them people just hug you because that's what they do. They say they gonna learn to love you till you learn to love yourself. You know, and I'm glad y'all told me that, because when I got here, I didn't know nothing about loving myself. And to be real honest, I still don't. I think it's impossible for somebody to use 30-something years and start loving themselves overnight. Just because the dope is arrested, I still do a lot of things to me that's not healthy. And a lot of it is simply, I allow my thoughts to run rapid sometimes. I don't ask God to stop them or to remove the character defects that I want to hold on to and say, these are survival techniques. This is my defense mechanism. I'm not ready to let this go, God, because I really don't think it's a defect. But I'm a lot better than I was when I got here. I got one woman now, not three. Because somebody had to cook, clean, somebody had to have a job, because I couldn't do nothing for myself. Absolutely nothing but get high. And I know any time a power greater than myself could pull me out the depths of hell, there's no time to be turning my back. I suffer from it. I'm not succeeding too much. I got this disease, got this ego to go along with it. When God says, well, you deserve this, Maria, you work for it, I'm blessing you with this, take it. Disease says, no, not really, you don't. You're really just trying to keep up with the Joneses. And you're really just trying to impress people. I struggle a lot with myself and what's real and what's not. I'm so grateful that God knows that I'm not perfect, that I have this inner struggle all the time just simply because I want to do the right thing for the right reason. Because I listen to y'all. I hear y'all say, after years in the program, how you lost certain things, you've done this and you've done that. And don't forget, I said I live in a city where my city is flashy. The meetings in the fellowship in Detroit, man, you know, they real flashy. And I say, okay, God, thank you, blessing me. I got a 2000 Diamante. And it's a nice car. And I'm not bragging, don't get me wrong, because I still struggle to this day after a month of having a car. Do I really want it? Not because the newness have wore off. I get bored quick. I really don't want to stress about paying that note and that insurance every month. I already got a car. But I want to pull up at the meeting in Detroit with all them good Cadillac driving niggas and say I got one too. And then ride away from there saying now you got to work 12 hours every day. You know, that's how quick the ego and the disease will get together and just me and just knock God out the way. Especially when they say, what kind of car? You look like an Infiniti. Ain't no damn Infiniti. I thought you knew with your cool ass. This is top of the line. You know what I'm saying? That quick. As soon as I pull out the damn parking lot, because I haven't got to pay for this motherfucker again. Do you really want this? No. See, but God is so awesome. He got a way of taking care of me when I can't take care of my fool ass. I bought the car for my little brother. He said, if you can't handle it, sell the damn car back to me. But the ego say, you don't want him to know you can't handle that damn car. Bottom line, y'all, the car is not me. I am not a high-profile, luxury type person. It's just that simple. I want a damn truck. I want a new truck, and I've been wanting a new truck. I got an old truck. I want a new truck. That's how fast my personality me being a follower all my life. That's how fast my stuff will change. And I will jump into the middle of something that's not even for me. And I never put this fellowship, I love this fellowship, it saved my life. But if you're not real careful, you will pick up other people's shit in here. I will. I still want to keep up with the joke, because y'all some cool people. You know, I be telling people all the time, they be like, you go to them meetings, I said, let me tell you something, the coolest people are up in there. We got players, pimps, bikers. For real, hoes, tricks, murderers. But the big thing about it, we ain't judging. We all in here loving each other, unconditional. It don't matter what you did, we here. And y'all some cool people to me. If I'd have known a long time ago this where the cool people was for real, I'd have been up here, because Pookie and them not cool no more. They not. I remember I first got clean, I said, I'm going to do like my mother. I'm going to walk around with a Watchtower and Awake magazine. You know how we run from them. Oh, it's a Jehovah's Witnesses. You know, let me share this. I'm studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses. But when I first got clean, I said, I'm going to walk around with this, and people was getting out, and I ain't going to say nothing to me. I didn't even have to do that. You know, I had my NA book. God gave me this glow back. God awakened my spirit once again, where the negativity couldn't even step to me. Now they see me pooking in. You going to another one of them meetings, ain't you, girl? I don't even have to be going to a meeting. I done changed so much, they just automatically assume I spend my whole life in meetings. And believe me, they're happy about it. They happy about it, because I was out of my mind. I look back now at how I used to be, and I was like, where the hell did I get the courage to do half that stuff? For real, because I'm scared now. I'm scared. Y'all say fear is a lack of faith, but damn that, I'm scared to go out at night. I'm scared to stop at the gas station. Especially for something like cigarettes, something to kill myself. I be thinking, God is not going to let me be safe here. Get your ass home. Wait till tomorrow. Yeah. But when you get home, you can do one of them old dope fiend moves and say nobody looking. See if it's a butted ass for long enough to last till the morning. You know, smoke it till it's time to get up. Yeah. And another thing my higher power has allowed me to do in this understanding is that let my teenage daughter be my teenage daughter. You know, a lot of times I be so busy saying what I don't want her to do, I forget to look at what she's doing. She's almost 18. She's never been pregnant. She's still in school. And she's a good girl. Totally opposite from me. You know, the only thing we have is this struggle where she goes through these stages where she has to prove to people she's not gay like her mother simply because she's choosy about who she messes with. You know, and the guy tell her, oh, you're not like your mama? You know, I tell you, you might hear that the rest of your life. You don't have to prove nothing. Nothing. But they pressure her a lot with that. But the only thing you got to prove is that your ass can get out of school. They go and get a job and get out of my house. But to be real honest, she probably could live with me forever. You know, because a lot of days she keeps me together. For Mother's Day, she bought me a journal. See, I've been around here a little while, and I still follow suggestions. I keep a journal. I hadn't been keeping one in a couple weeks. My behavior was out of order. Pookie and them started come sitting on my porch. They've been just staying next door. I'm talking about using addicts. Notice the behavior, and it attracted them. They started sitting on my porch, and they was bringing their beer. Girl, yeah. Still going to meet you, hanging it at you. I was like, yeah, sure is. You need to come go. Then before you know it, it was no longer talking about nobody going. We done went all the way back to what we used to do. My Mother's Day, my daughter Morgan said, here's a journal, Ma. She knew it was time for me to get busy. Because if I don't keep a journal and an inventory of what I'm doing and who I am, I'll turn into some damn body else. Real quick, without no dope. real quick, I'll turn into somebody else because I don't, to be honest, fellowship a lot. I make meetings regular, but on the phone thing, it's maybe 1 or 2 people I talk to. And I try to talk to people that co-sign my shit. I don't call nobody that's going to tell me don't do that. Because then I'm going to tell who the fuck you think you are. You did it. You can't tell me what to do. Because I'm hard-headed. My sponsor, a lot of times I think she just don't want to mess with me. You know, but then I'm trying real hard not to judge her because I've been like for the last year struggling, should I get another sponsor? I've had the same one since I've been here, but I'm ready to move on. Like I was telling Claudia, I've been asking her to do this 4th step with me almost a year now. You know, and I keep saying, I understand she has a new job, she has responsibilities, I do too, so I understand that, but damn, I feel like I'm stagnated. I want more of what this program has to offer. I don't want to stay around here being in the same damn spot. That shit is no fun. I'll be looking for some real excitement if I do that, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, this relationship with my higher power is so very awesome. I'm going to share this just because I want to. Since I've been working on this relationship with my higher power, I am abstinence, and I have a woman that we share the same bed, and it's just not that important anymore. It's kind of painful because I feel I brung her into something that I had no idea that I was going to not want to do later. Or I love her dearly, you know, she's a good woman and all, but I know if I don't strengthen this relationship, nobody in my life has nothing coming. And I know also that I'm going to need the strength from my higher power when this relationship does. And it's not ending because something bad is going on. It's just that I'm not the type of person that can balance very well. Right now I need a relationship with my higher power, not another woman. I need a relationship with my higher power to help me become a better mother. I have a daughter that's about to become a woman. And it's just a matter of getting my priorities in order. You know, because it's not about sex or somebody else being with me anymore and all that. It's about the inner peace. I like that feeling. And I really, to be honest too, I don't want to be responsible right now for another person's emotions. I'm a female, I'm an emotional bag of garbage, now she is too. You know, and I can't afford to, right now, I just can't take her too much of a load. She's not a worldly person. It's like me and her, we work together, we sleep together, we live together. So guess who catches all the shit? She don't have a friend. She's a good person. I just, right now, I need to work on me. I need to work on me, and I need to go in the direction that God is leading me, because this is a choice I wouldn't have made myself. So I know God is doing this. Just like he brought me here. When I wanted to stay home and work some more, because that's all hell I'd be thinking I need to do. They say be responsible. And I would work my butt off, man, and be missing a whole lot. A whole lot of what I really need, because I get in that, just get the money. And along with that comes never being satisfied, greed, ungratefulness, selfishness. You know, that shit don't feel good when you're trying to do the right thing for the right reason, because I can look at all that and say, well, you know what, yeah, you'd have made a lot of money, but how you feel? You know, it don't cost nothing to get close to God. See, like I say, my God is not punishing, but I do believe that them blessings be cut. I do believe that. The blessings be cut. You know, and I don't be wanting my blessings cut. And I'm not talking about material things, monetary blessings. I'm talking about that peace that I just be wanting so bad again. Because it's a good feeling. And people tell me all the time, Marie, you must wear a mask. Ain't nobody be that happy all the time. I say, hell, if they can't. I remember I first got here, y'all said, if you're not happy, what are you waiting on? I was like, damn, ain't nobody told me yet how to be. You know. And when I did get that happiness from God, it's not that I'm fake and I'm wearing masks. Y'all also told me whatever I was going through, that too shall pass. So then I'll be happy again. You know, let me be happy. If you're not, don't be mad at me. I don't know about y'all, it feels good to be alive. Like you were saying, it feels good to wake up and breathe. To know, like an addict always here in Detroit, it wasn't the alarm clock that got me up. It wasn't the microwave going off. It wasn't none of that. It wasn't nothing but God. I don't even use the alarm clock. I don't need an alarm clock. Most times when I turn over and look at the clock, it be just that time. It be just that time. God done already did his thing. Now get your ass up and go to work. You know what? This program is something else. I never in my life thought I'd be sitting somewhere talking about God and not getting high. Or being able to be out in the woods, in the rain, by the water, not high. I used to get drunk and fall in the water. You know what I'm saying? And get too high, couldn't go through the woods. What was that? Yeah. You know, but then care nothing about that mess when you be out in the alley getting one more. For real. Oh, it was just a rat. Wait, man. You know, but I'm so glad to be back, y'all, because, like I said, this is most of the time the closest I get to the real deal. I got to come here in Milford, Indiana, you know, and it's good. It's good. It gives me something to look forward to every year. And that's what I do. I look forward to coming here, filling up on my spirituality, going back, and I'll be good for 3-4 months. Yeah, really. And I'm just glad. I'm glad to be back here. And I never get comfortable until it's time to go. You know. But I'm going to ride with it today. I'm just going to kick back, write in my journal, and ask God, what do you want me to do? You know, before I leave here. Let me, because he always reveals something different to me every time I come to work on it. It's like I can't run. Ain't nowhere to go. I can't run to work. I can't run to cuss nobody out. It's like, here, deal with this, and where you going? So I'll be stuck right out here and dealing with it. But it'll be one more issue gone by the time I get back home. And for that, I'm grateful. Thanks for letting me share.
Bob Mack. Thank you, Maria. Excellent, excellent. In fact, I was going to tell her, put me down for one of those tapes. It's good stuff this morning. Thanks, Teresa. We're going to open the floor here. We've got about a half an hour left. Need to remind everyone that we're being taped. If you wish not to be taped, please let us know and they can turn the tape off. But our topic is having a relationship with a higher power, and if you would, please come to the front to share. Thanks.
Go ahead, Claudia.
Well, this is a hard act to follow. I figured I'd break the ice. I'd be the fall guy or something. Hi, Brian. My name's Mark. I'm definitely an addict. Yeah, looking forward to coming back here every year. I mean, more than clean time anniversary, Christmas, birthday, whatever. You know, in the middle of winter, me and some friends are talking about Camp Matt, and you just get a warm feeling. You know, it's like it's one of the weekends that some of my friends and I really look forward to getting back to. But something that Teresa said. About relationship with the higher power, and I felt it for a long time. It's a gut feeling that everything's going to be all right if you got a good relationship. I don't care what you're going through. It's going to be all right, you know. And I guess the bottom line, what I want to get across is that relationship is always available. Do we want to seek it out or do we not? You know, our humanness and our human needs will take us in the other direction, but just starting off a few minutes, a few times a day, we can start developing a relationship with a higher power. And I say a quick prayer a few times a day, and it's just thank you. Thank you, God, for this life, this world. I know it ain't perfect, you know, but thank you, you know. And I sincerely mean it, you know. I think that's the main thing that I wanted to say. Again, we have to be grateful, you know. I mean, I go through phases in recovery where I can get away from basics, meetings. I haven't slipped on it's funny, the days I do slip on prayer is Sunday morning, because I'm out of my work routine. You know, that's the morning. Most of the world in the Western world is getting their spirit on in church or whatever and praying. They might not pray the rest of the week, but Sunday, and I'm kind of opposite from that, because 6 mornings a week I go to work, and I don't pray when I hit the floor. It used to be, maybe I will someday, but it used to be I'd do it when I got to the car, then I'd do it before I got to the car. Now it's like I sit down in front of my door before I leave the house, before I go out of my little safety zone, and I'm heading to work and the world and traffic and everything, and I do my little morning prayer, and but Sundays sometimes I don't get out of the house for a few hours, and I'm running off to Home Depot or something, and you know, it's middle afternoon, it's like, oh damn, I didn't pray this morning, you know, and that's okay, but and I said at a workshop yesterday when I came in here that, you know, some people had that sparkle in their eye and some didn't. People that had that sparkle in their eye were just, they were smiling and laughing, not necessarily all the time, but most of the time. There were some other people who were just still pissing and moaning, complaining about the same old crap. You know, they didn't talk about God in their life and the people at the Sparkle. They shared what God done for them without trying to convert me to any particular religion. And I saw what some people had, and I wanted it, and I followed the suggestions to find that. And I can't say enough about this fellowship. We all know that so-called normal people could learn a lot from this fellowship, you know. And I'm going right back to the gratitude. We're a chosen few in here. You know, most drug addicts will never find recovery. The majority of drug addicts will die long before their time. You know, and you know, we've been saved just finding this place. However we got here, and most of us believe that somehow God got us here, and I feel that way too. And we're fortunate. We have to be grateful. You know, if we're not grateful, you better get grateful. And you can go through a phase, you know, but I don't like to go through an ungrateful phase for more than a day or two. You know, I start acting stupid in public, and you know, when I start getting away from basics of this program, I don't like being out in public acting like a fool over some stupid ass little shit. You know, so I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you.
Hey family, I'm addict named Mike P.
Hey, Mike.
I really would like to thank both the speakers that shared. It says what comes from the heart will reach the heart. Relationship with a higher power. And for me, like some and possibly unlike others, my relationship with any belief in anything greater than myself started in religion. And that has followed me here to the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. The only problem I had with religion was that I had knowledge without understanding. But after going through the horrors of addiction and being afflicted with this malady, so to speak, really a curse has been turned into a blessing. Because today, through living the spiritual principles of Narcotics Anonymous and being here for a while and understanding and embracing some spiritual principles, my relationship with God, a higher power, or a power greater than myself, and I use those three interchangeably, is unlike any other time in my life, and that's a direct result of being a member of Narcotics Anonymous. I've always prayed all of my life, off and on and off. I gave up on God. God never left me. But I was listening to one of the sisters share it, and it almost made me want to cry because, one, God has never, ever judged me. In spite of all the bullshit, all the lies, all the degrading things I did to myself and others, He's never judged me. He gave me that breath of life you were talking about. He just gave me that innate ability not to even second guess how I'm able to move and function. You know, because a lot of times I go up in my brain and I start really tripping like, why am I human? Why couldn't I just be a tree? You know, why I got to have all these feelings and emotions? I mean, why are we even here? Being a human, shit, I could be a rock, you know, but it's a blessing in being a human with feelings today. Because for many years I always wanted to mask and cover up, and I felt different than, and I was apart from, and even sometimes being in big gatherings like this, I still feel like that little island out in the middle of the ocean somewhere, because I still have a problem identifying my feelings. I'm a little bit better today, just a little bit better, but I've gotten better in that area of feelings in a relationship, basically due to the relationship I had with my sponsor, honestly sharing with another man, having an intimate relationship. That has allowed me to be honest with my wife and communicate with her truly how I feel. And this doesn't happen each and every day, but it happens the majority of the time. Because this is a continuous uphill journey, and the longer you be here, the higher the road, and the narrower it gets, and the tighter it gets, and winds and curves. And sometimes all I can do is just not use no dope. I ain't even going to talk about just not using, period. I got to be specific and say dope. Because I will use other things to give me that odd feeling. And a lot of times, and I was sharing about this last night, when I use those other things, it degrades me and lowers my self-esteem and makes me feel guilt and shame and remorse and all these other negative feelings. But I continue to pray to God anyway. I continue to pray to God for the willingness. I continue to pray to be entirely ready, because in a lot of areas of my life, I am not entirely ready to have these defects of character removed. Practicing insanity, knowing it's insane. I don't even question it. And I am grateful that the God that I know and understand and serve today is a loving and kind, forgiving God. I'm very grateful, because if not, and I guess He's that way because I'm still here, because I still make mistakes on a regular basis. I don't make as many mistakes today, but I do make mistakes, and God still gives me that breath of life and the ability to do all the things that I can do today. I pray on a regular basis. I mean, the majority of the time I'm driving anywhere in my car, I use that time to pray and meditate. I don't turn on the radio. I don't put in CDs and tapes. I just pray and talk to God. At night, I meditate on the name of God. In the morning, I got up this morning, went over to the chapel. You know, just being here at Milford, and this retreat is really, I don't call it a convention, it's a retreat. Time for me to reflect and to refresh and rejuvenate and regenerate. Because I was walking through the woods, and you could hear the birds and the whispering pines, and you can smell all the smells, and the brook is running, and the ocean or the water or lake or whatever this thing is that's out there moving. This is God's country, you know, and I've basically been in Indiana all my life, but I never thought there was really a place like this in Indiana, you know. But I was here at the very first one about 8 or 9 years ago, and it has truly grown by leaps and bounds. I mean, this thing is awesome, and I too, like other members, I take this opportunity to get away from the clock and the daily rigors of all that high-speed, fast-paced bullshit that goes on. But I just wanted the opportunity to really to share. I don't have no real issues going on in my life. I have kids, I have a wife, I have a job, I have a boss that's an asshole, but that's living life on life's own terms without the use of drugs. You know, I'm not doing anything real special today because I'm not using any dope. But the quality of my life is done, I ain't going to say a 360, but it's at least done a 180. It is much, 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 much better today. I apply spiritual principles. I was sharing with some members on my job that I was going on a retreat, and they said, "Oh, a retreat with church." I said, "No, just a spiritual retreat with some other brothers." I don't get into letting everybody know I'm a recovering addict because it's not appropriate. Because some people still have that stigma, dope fiend this, dope fiend that, and they're gonna look at me cockeyed and sideways. But I don't do that today because it's not necessary. I was sharing with a member the other day here. I think it was their first time here. And they said you had this glow, and that's just to say that people see things in us before we see them in ourselves, and that's a direct result of having a relationship with a higher power. That's a direct result of me praying on a regular basis, regardless of how I feel. Because see, I know when I stop praying, I'm turning the juice off, and then eventually I'm gonna take the cord out the socket, and if I'm disconnected, what? I get no juice. So at the least, I'm gonna stay plugged in and at least have it on low. And the majority of the time, I'm gonna turn it on super high, because I got to have that juice, man. Because the world is nothing nice out here. I have a sponsee that is out in the horrors of addiction, and I'm gonna pray for this brother, and he'll be ready when he's ready. I pray that he doesn't die first. And he's dying already spiritually. And I guess that's the death that I feel the most, is having a spiritual death. That's the first to go and the last to come back. Because it'd probably be a blessing to die physically. But even in rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, my spirit, I'm not always spiritually buoyant. Sometimes my head has went up under the waterline and I'm grasping for the breath of life. Because I'm not following the spiritual principles of this program teaches me. But I continue to try to be vigilant in prayer and to stay hooked up with my higher power. And just in closing, man, God is awesome. God is awesome because, again, somebody was saying something and I almost cried because God took a sinner like me, a fool like me that was in the damn gutters that knew better, but I couldn't do any better, and he brought me up and gave me life. And I still continue sometimes to stumble and fall. And he gives me all of that good stuff you were talking about that I don't even second guess, man. That's awesome to me. I can't even fathom in my wildest dreams why God is like that. But then all of a sudden I see my brothers and sisters and I'm going to judge you because of this, and I'm going to point the finger at you because of that. And because God has been so good with me, it's taken away a lot of my judgmental of other people when it comes to attacking their character and putting them down to make me look big. Yeah, I'll make judgments between what's right and wrong with those things about you that I don't like, because there's little you and me and a little me and you. But all too often around the rooms, I see people judging and attacking other members, and I'm like, when did you arrive? I think we've all left, and we're probably on the journey, but I don't think nobody's arrived yet unless you die, and you happen to die clean. But I haven't seen the N.A. Messiah come yet. I have not seen that, and sometimes it really pisses me off that I sit back and all Howard members that have been here for a while, and all of a sudden they got this thing stumped down pat it's only their way. And it talks about in one of the traditions, and I'm going to truly close with this, diversity is our strength. I mean, look around the rooms, the complexions, the hairdos, the body types. I mean, when we listen, we hear members share real peaceful. Then we hear members share loud and angry and boisterous. We hear members that wear gaiters and silks, and other folks wear leathers and big boots, so diversity is our strength. So everybody has the right to their belief or whatever. And in the fifth tradition talks about that. The only problem with literature is language. We are bound by interpretation. Because what is written in the book, by the time I read it and you read it, we're liable to come up with 55 different interpretations. Does that make you wrong or me right? No. That's just simply, when I sit here, I'm sharing my experience, strength, and hope. And I have the right to do that, just like you do. It's not to say that what I shared is going to work for you or what you share won't work for me. But, sometimes I really get real off with that. But because I have a relationship with God today and I got spiritual principles, put acceptance out on the table. Understanding, open-mindedness, my compassion. Give that brother or sister a hug and tell them to keep coming back, because I don't know, man, this thing has really, really been great. And thank you, two sisters that shared, because you really touched my heart. Thanks, man.
Hello, family. My name is Walter A., and And first of all, I'd just like to thank y'all for being here for me. And anyway, my sponsor kind of like pushed me up here, but I'd just like to say that I'm grateful for having a higher power in my life. I'm grateful for having Narcotics Anonymous in my life today. And that I'm grateful to NA for giving me that power, because the higher power that I had when I got here, I couldn't relate to, I couldn't pray to, I couldn't talk to. But today I have one that I honestly know it is doing for me things that I can't do for myself. And I'm just grateful for the process, grateful for getting to know him. I don't share a lot, but I'm just grateful for where my higher power has brought me, has brought me from. Because every time I think about where he's brought me from, I kind of like get chills. I came into this program with a key to nothing, and I've been here a few years, and today it's just I actually have a relationship. I actually know that he's doing for me things that I can't do for myself. He took a dope fiend like me and gave me some spirituality. He gave me some people to help lead and guide me. He's molding me today into something that I'm not even sure, where I'm going. Mm-hmm. But I know that it's his will for me to go that way, and I just keep trying to stay there. And Camp Mac, I've been coming here off and on for a few years, and this is a place where I just talk about it all year long. Every time I leave here, and I always look forward to coming back. So it happens I haven't been up here the last couple of years because I've been I'm in a church now where we go on at another church up here in Champaign about the same time of year. This year it was council, and I was like, thank God, I was able to make it back up here. But I'm grateful for NA as a whole, Camp Mac as a whole, and I'm gonna keep coming. With that, thanks for letting me share.
Everybody, my name's Bart, and I'm an addict. Hey, Bart. And after yesterday's workshop, Shannon looked at me. She said, "Why don't you get up there and talk?" So here I am, and I don't really have a lot to say. I'm really just feeling a lot of emotions. When Maria started talking, man, and she started talking about the peace and the nature here and how good it feels, and then we hear about the ocean over here. I needed to laugh. And I can get up here and sit in front of everybody, with a little bedhead, not be too concerned, and that's kind of a miracle because I'm so self-conscious and so worried about what everybody thinks about me. And that shows me that my higher power is helping me get in touch with myself, get comfortable with myself, let me be who I am, and it's kind of beautiful seeing it come out. And I just know that I've been going through a grieving process, and I've never grieved sober. I lost a girl I loved, and it's been about 6 months, going on 6 months, and I wrote a lot about her yesterday. I dreamt about her Friday night, and I just got to keep giving thanks that I met her, and I only knew her for like 2 months. She got this horrible form of ovarian cancer and was dead within like 3 weeks. And it was, so there's part of me that wants to look at how can this happen to me? What's up with the higher power? Wants to put some blame somewhere, wants to point some fingers, and then you hear that girl get up and give the open talk yesterday about her getting raped and giving her little baby up for adoption, and then she has her abortion. Or not abortion, she loses her baby, she miscarries, and then she just wants to commit suicide. And that made me start thinking about a poem that I know, and it says, in the poem it says, "Nurture the strength of spirit to shield you in times of sudden misfortune." And I feel that with this girl that I met, that she passed away, I haven't used throughout this whole situation. And if I hadn't had that nurture and the strength of the spirit, if I hadn't had that close relationship with the higher power that we were talking about yesterday, and I wouldn't be sitting here, because that's the first thing I do is I run to hide my feelings. And, I had to get up here and talk about the relationship with the higher power, because that's what it's all about. We can go to meetings, we can go to 2-3 meetings a day, but then when you leave the meeting, who are you with,
Oh, come on.
So it's important for me to relate that to whoever's here, and I got to be close to somebody all day long, not just in the morning, not just at nighttime. It's got to be continuous, and I got to be comfortable with it, or else I'm probably not going to go real far. And I needed to just sit around last night with you guys. That was real helpful for me, and I just try to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and just hearing you guys share, Maria and Teresa, and the 2 gentlemen before me, 3 gentlemen before me. And I remember coming to your lecture for my first year, and I just was just stunned. I just walked out. I said, "Man, these women just tell it like it is." What the fuck? I never have heard anybody talk like that before. And hearing you guys talk today again, it just reinforces, I'm on the right road, and I am hearing everything I need to hear, and it's all happening, even though I don't understand a lot of it. It's all going, I'm going down the road, and at least I'm not taking 2 steps back anymore. So, thanks for listening.
Thanks, Paul. Mark.
I'm Matt. My name's John.
Hey, John.
I know I have a couple relationships that I deal with always. One of them's this relationship with my God, and the other relationship is with that committee. The committee that said, don't get up because everybody shared positive, and you got all this negative stuff, and you don't need to throw that in to kill the whole spiritual thing. And I was buying it. I was ready to get up and leave and go lay down. This fellowship saved me about 8 years ago, and I've probably been up here every time they've had a convention, other than maybe 1 or 2. And I've been eating at my own ass lately. I'm just chomping away, just going, beat myself up, saying, John, get off the pity pot and go do what you used to do at Camp Mac and get to meet some of these people, and let's hug some of these people that loved me 4 and 5 years ago when I didn't know nothing, and when I didn't sponsor some guys, and I didn't tell them, put a God in your life right now. I'm not beating around the bush anymore. You better get one, and I was scared to tell a lot of people that. I've been going through a lot of health issues, and I'm swelling up my hands and my feet, and the doctors are spinning me around, and the favorite come see me in another 3 weeks, and all I want's an answer, and talking about praying to God and wanting an answer, and I want an answer tomorrow. I want an answer 10 minutes after the prayer's done, and I'm not getting them, and I'm getting resentful, and I'm getting the committee's winning, and I'm just in a bad space. I'm in a real bad space, and I know that honesty and all the open-mindedness and spirituality you gets put to the test when I'm feeling like, well, wait a minute, how come I did all this work and now I got all this physical pain? This ain't right. Why am I getting cheated? I ain't mad at God. I did all this to myself. But part of me is mad at God. It's like, wait a minute, man. What's going on here? How come I got to go through this physical pain to get to some spiritual awareness? And I talked to, the doctors told me I had hepatitis, so I ran the meetings every day, just like I did when I first come around. And I shared with everybody, and I felt, oh, I'm not alone. There's a whole lot of people with it. Walking around swelled up and it ain't bothering now. Going, why is it bothering me? It's bothering me. I don't know why it's bothering me. I can't, to tell somebody it'll be all right when somebody dies. I went through that, it'll be all right. But then the shoe gets put on another foot, and then you're the guy they're saying, it'll be all right. And I'm like, well, when's it going to be all right? It ain't all right. It's painful. I'm scaring my wife. I'm scaring my kids. I'm afraid. I have lack of faith, and I've had lack of faith for days, and I don't know where to go. So one thing I know that my sponsor told me, he said, John, when you get in the bad space around here, hit them tables. And if they don't work, call me. And Lynn has sponsored me for a lot of years, and
after he retired and spent the winter in Florida, people are going, he's distant from you. You need to find a new sponsor that's local. And I said, well, my butt ain't on fire like he used to be the first and second year. I don't need him like you guys might need him. You want to get another sponsor, that's fine. I got the best sponsor in the world. I ain't letting him go. So he's in Florida. I got a cell phone. I got a pager. I call him, and the night I chose to call him because my anger's kicking in. That's my mask. When I don't feel good or when something's bothering me, I growl like a lion and take it out on the whole world instead of deal with the issue. So I ran to the phone and called him, and his wife says, well, he's at Bible study. He ain't going to be around. I didn't want to hear all that. I was mad, and I didn't know which way to turn, and luckily I'm self-employed, but and Lynn caught me the next morning, and he was worried about me getting to work and this and that, and I said, no, the idiot I work for will be all right with talking to you for a couple hours, and I needed that. But then he told me, he said, use the tables and use your sponsor. If that don't work, you need to hit them knees. And I've been trying all three of those, and they're not working. But then again, I just got to go back around and around, and it's like when I come to Camp Mac, it's not like sitting at a table with 8 or 12 people. It's like sitting at a resort with 100 people or 75 people. So I know that as much as the committee's been talking, I'll get some relief getting honest, and I always said life around here, it ain't about the money. It ain't about the stuff, because I know how bad I've chased other stuff to fix things, and then when I got them, now what? I know that my logical thing is with all my sponsees is they want to go fast all the time, and I always tell them, just hurry up and then you'll fuck up. Slow down. Hurry up and fuck up. Then work with work, recovery, praying, and problem is I told them all those one-liners, and now that I'm in pain, they just throw them all back at me. And I'm like, man, now I got to do what I'm supposed to do, and I'm in the right place. I'm in the right place. I'm in an emotional wreck where my disease don't want me to cry. My disease don't want me to share. My disease wants me to hide in the woods. So I just needed to get up here and tell on myself. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, John.
My name's Mark. I'm an addict.
Hey, Mark.
Morning, family. For me, my relationship with a higher power started with the very first meeting. I don't remember a damn thing except 3 words, and they were keep coming back. And that unconditional, I didn't know what it was, but I know y'all don't know me, man. And people that know me don't want me to come back no more. Ain't nobody saying, well, come on back, man, but I'm going to hide my TV set and shit, They're just saying, come on back, because we need you. And I didn't know. That was just such a whole new thing to me. We were talking at a meeting the other day about the world people, man, and how, like, when I got a bad day now, I can't go home, kick back, turn the TV on, crack a beer, roll a joint. And they can, and this person that was sharing about that, like, I'm with that, I don't care. I have this relationship, but the person that was sharing was talking about, I miss that. And I said, well, I got to think through the whole thing, because for me it ain't about twisting one up. I got to know, where'd you cop this shit at, so I can go out and get a pound and sell some, and then I can smoke free. That's where I'm going, I'm not kicking back with one. So my higher power keeps me there. The relationship keeps me there. The third step says we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand Him. For me, that decision came to God as I don't understand Him. Because I don't know what God is. I know what God ain't. I know the way I feel, the shit that I'm doing ain't right. So when I got here, and I seen these smiles, and I said, wow, man, I don't understand this, because smiling, the only time I'm smiling, I'm getting over. That's when I'm smiling. I'm smiling because I'm coming up behind you, I'm going to hit you upside your head, and you ain't going to know it. And I'm going to take something. So this giving thing was a whole new concept. Whole new concept. No matter what has happened to me in my recovery, I have never taken back that decision. And for me, that is the power of the program. I've been through hell. We all have. I've been through hell in recovery. I have been to meetings where I have been so grateful that there's not a newcomer sitting there. Because if somebody were to get up and say, you're the most important person in this room, I'll go beat their ass, man, because I am in pain here and I need to get rid of it. And I don't want my pain, because I got more than a weekend, man, and I don't want my pain to scare somebody away. I don't want somebody to think that, well, man, if I'm doing this day after day, and look at this guy, how come? You know? Because maybe I'm going through something, okay? And it's okay to go through something. That's why I love the way we close the meetings for the addict in and out of the circle still suffering. Because we can suffer in recovery, but as long as we don't use, it's going to be okay. And for me to stay in the not using is a maintenance in my 11th step. And I still don't know how to do that, but I'm getting better. It's a practice thing. I didn't know how to live till I got here. And now that I'm learning, I want to forget how I learned it, man. And I want to run it, you know? So I got to be very careful about that. I got to always check myself. I got to always try to be humble. I love these things because there's just a peaceful feeling that comes in. But if that peaceful feeling is just coming in and I'm just hanging on to it and I ain't giving it away, it's going to die. So I got to pass it on. I got to pass it on. And the only place I can pass it on to, I can't pass it on to the world, people. I got to go back to my home, wherever the hell that is, and go to the meetings and get what y'all give me. And I got to give it away. And that's for me how it works. You know, there's this thing that just stays like just beneath the surface, man. And I don't know when that thing's coming out, you know. But if I try to stay close, and if I don't take that decision back and I don't use, it's going to be okay. I live in the woods, you know. So what scares me, man, is like rats in the alley and shit. When I go to the city, them rats in the alley freak me out. I'm like, man, I can deal with the woods, you know. I can deal with this. And I like coming here to be in the woods around a lot of recovering people. That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. And we're really grateful we found Camp Mac, and by the grace of God, we'll be back next year. Thanks for everybody for being here. We're on time, Kevin.